are talking to the Leave No Trace team, and we're announcing the Leave No Trash University Challenge for 2025 happening in the month of April. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my screen share so we can actually say hello to them. Erin, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, so really nice to be here with you all. Thank you so much for having us at SciStarter. So my name is Erin Collier. I am the Senior Manager of Education Programs at Leave No Trace. And I'm going to share a little bit about what Leave No Trace is as an organization, about our citizen science program, and then specifically talk about these upcoming events happening in April so that you can have them on your radar and you can hopefully participate in them. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes, although it looks a bit smaller on my end. I'm not sure if that's because of my screen, though. I might be. It's getting bigger.
Yeah, it's because I have it not in full screen. So hopefully
Oh,
that
okay,
is it
gotcha.
better
Yeah,
now? Is it bigger now?
yes, although the bottom is a little bit cut off.
Okay, let me redo it and just do it full screen.
Okay. It's always the
Yeah, I
fun.
was trying to cheat the system and not have to have it be full screen so I can still see other stuff, but
Oh, I know.
sometimes you just gotta go full screen. Okay, now it's probably better.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool. All right, so yeah, I'm Erin Collier. I'm the Senior Manager of Education Programs at Leave No Trace. Leave No Trace is a national nonprofit and really an international movement. We have sister nonprofits all across the globe doing this same work in other countries. And our main mission is to empower everyone to understand the ways that we can impact our planet and to understand how we can minimize those impacts. So we want everyone to be able to be stewards, to take an active role in protecting the planet and their communities by understanding those potential impacts and the best way, based on science and research, to minimize those impacts. So we do that through kind of three main ways. The first is expanding training for all people. So we have both online and in-person courses. They range anywhere from 30 minutes to a 5-day in the field course. And those courses go over that science and research of really understanding the ways that we as people can impact wildlife, soils, water, all of the ecosystem around us and the ways that we can minimize those impacts and be a steward of our planet. We also try to increase stewardship by connecting people with real world actions they can take to improve the health of the planet and their community. And then the third way is advancing science and research. So we work with this really cool research network that has folks from colleges and universities all across the globe to be doing constant research in recreation ecology and human dimensions of natural resources. And we also have a pretty robust citizen and community science program within that so that we can be not only engaging people just in stewardship, but in being part of that science and research so we can be even better at the work that we're doing. Now, Leave No Trace, if you've never heard of us before, the kind of foundational piece of the thing that we teach is the 7 principles of Leave No Trace. So these are kind of the 7 main actions that we can take to minimize our impacts on an outdoor area to really make sure we're thinking through minimizing these impacts and being a steward. These are kind of like our foundational curriculum. We have expanded and teach a lot more than just this, but I figured to kind of ground us in this conversation, it would be great to talk a little bit about these 7 principles. And they can be kind of hard to remember. So luckily we have a fun mnemonic device for remembering these 7 principles. And they are the 7 principles hand signals. So I would love for you to practice these with me. You'll need your hands. Go ahead and give them a stretch. You've probably been like typing all day and they need a stretch anyway. So you're going to make a number 1. And our first principle is to plan ahead and prepare. So you're going to make a list. You're going to think things through. And anytime we are going into nature, going into the natural world, we want to plan ahead and prepare so that we know how to have a safe trip, how to have a Leave No Trace trip, how to be a steward while we're there. The second principle, you're going to make a number 2, and it is to travel and camp on durable surfaces. So you're traveling, you're camping on durable surfaces, you're staying on trails and walkways, you're only camping or parking or doing anything in areas that are going to withstand that impact. The third principle, which we'll talk a lot more about today, is to dispose of waste properly. So we've got our 3, and we're throwing our trash in the trash can. We're disposing of all of our waste properly. Our fourth principle is kind of the tricky hand signal. So we're going to make 2 2s like this. We're going to turn them to make a camera. Our fourth principle is to leave what we find. So we want to leave all the things we find in nature, take pictures and leave those items so that they can continue to play their role in that ecosystem or in the cultural history of that place. Our fifth principle, we've got a 5, and this becomes our campfire. We're going to minimize campfire impacts. So we want to make sure we can have a safe campfire and always put that fire out before we leave. The sixth principle, we're going to make a 6 with 2 3s. It is to respect wildlife. We want to make sure we're being respectful of wildlife because we're in their home and we can have really drastic effects on their ability to remain wild. So we want to make sure we're being respectful. And then the 7th principle, we're going to make a 5 and then a 2 for a 7. It's to be considerate of others. So we've got a wave and a peace sign, or maybe a hang loose if that's more your vibe. We are sharing our planet with each other, and we want to make sure that we're giving everyone the same ability to connect with the natural world, to spend time outdoors, and be kind and considerate of everyone that we encounter when we're outside, so that everyone has that same ability to get the mental and physical health benefits of spending time outdoors. So these 7 principles are our foundational curriculum. We do a lot of education around these 7 principles. They are just kind of just part of what we teach too as well. We have lots of variations and different versions of them. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about that third principle, dispose of waste properly, and some of our citizen science projects we have that kind of fall within that realm. One thing I do want to note though, before we dive into that, is that Leave No Trace is a spectrum. And anytime we're teaching and talking about Leave No Trace, it's good to kind of ground ourselves in this. On one side, we have significant impacts. On one side, we have few impacts. And we all fall somewhere on this spectrum. But the important part isn't where we fall. It's that anytime we do anything to minimize our impacts, to be a steward, we're moving towards that fewer impact side. And it's not about perfection, it's about action. So doing the best we can as often as we can. And when we're all doing that, culturally, we're moving towards this fewer impact side. And that's where we can see improvements in the health of our ecosystems, the health of our natural world, by all of us just putting little things into action and moving towards that fewer impact side. So it's not about perfection, it's just doing the best we can as often as we can. So within all of Leave No Trace, there are a lot of different things that we do. One of our programs is citizen and community science. And in this program, we work with SciStarter, who you'll hear from in a little bit, on projects that are centered around conservation, recreation, and environmental education. So we really want to utilize our citizen science projects to inform the other work that we do. And we'll talk about specifically some of our projects and how they are informing our work. So these are just kind of a few of our projects that we have currently, and we'll talk about a few of them more in depth, but I just wanted to kind of highlight them here. So one is a conditions project, and this is monitoring conditions on Bureau of Land Management land. If you know anything about public lands, Bureau of Land Management land is really vast. Places like the Park Service, the National Park Service, they have less land and they usually have a little bit more staff to help them manage those lands. Whereas BLM land is really vast. I live in Nevada and about 85% of our state is public land. A lot of that is BLM land. And there's pretty minimal staff for managing that huge amount of land. So with this conditions project, we have volunteers, BLM staff, folks who just go out and recreate, monitoring conditions on all of this land so that the staff can really understand where impacts are occurring, where maybe problem areas are happening, and they can figure out how to prioritize where to address their work. One thing that has come out of this project is we've been able to kind of locate a lot of dump sites, illegal dump sites, where people go out into this vast land and dump really large trash items. And because they're visited so infrequently, the BLM staff might never know that that's happening. But because of this project and folks who are just out visiting these lands, we've been able to kind of figure out where some of these are and then notify the BLM so that they can prioritize where to go do cleanups. Another one of our citizen science projects is working with the Access Fund. So they are a rock climbing advocacy nonprofit, and we have been working with them to try to understand the impacts of rock climbing and how to most effectively educate rock climbers. So we've been working in 3 really popular climbing locations across the US. One is Indian Creek in Utah, one is New River Gorge in West Virginia, and then one is Red River Gorge in Kentucky. And we've worked with them to have climbing stewards. So they are climbers themselves, and they act as kind of trail ambassadors in these locations, providing education to climbers. And with this citizen science project, we've now engaged them in collecting data about what impacts they're seeing and how those impacts are changing over time. So through this, we're able to understand what are the main impacts that are happening, and they can then target their education to those impacts. And over the course of a whole climbing season, we can see if those impacts lessen as we have these stewards out there doing this education, weekend after weekend. Are those impacts lessening, and is that education effective? We can really kind of dig in and understand how best to educate and how best to minimize those impacts. And then the 2 that I think are most important for you all to know about are Leave No Trash and our University Challenge. So Leave No Trash is, while these other projects I've mentioned are kind of targeted to specific groups, Leave No Trash is a project that anyone can join at any time. It is completely open, and the purpose of it is to remove and record trash so that we can really understand the source of it. So when we see litter out in a natural space, we want to pick up that litter, pack it out with us, and also record what it is, where it is, so we can really understand how maybe it got there and try to address the source of it. Cleanups are kind of, they can be helpful, but they're not the solution to litter. We want to try to solve it at the source so that we don't have to do cleanups afterwards. And then the University Challenge is a week-long competition for colleges and universities that are gathering data for Leave No Trash, specifically on their campus, so that they can understand the litter on their campus, what it is, where it might be coming from, and then make changes to hopefully address that. So the University Challenge, if you are maybe interested in participating in this, you can scan the QR code, and then we'll also have links in the chat and things like that. This is a week-long challenge that takes place during Earth Month, so April, and also Citizen Science Month. We are still getting colleges and universities signed up, so we're not 100% sure which week in April we'll choose. We're going to kind of poll everyone to see which week works best, but it will probably be around Earth Day, kind of later April. And through this University Challenge, all of the participating colleges and universities compete with each other to see who can pick up and record the most trash in their week. At the end of that, there are prizes, there are some kind of fun pieces, but it's really meant to challenge each other and to see who can record the most data in that time. So last year's project was our first year of doing it. We had Colorado State University, University of Notre Dame, and North Carolina State University as our participants. And I know I saw someone from NCSU on the call today, so I'm not sure if you were part of it last year, but those were our participating universities. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about some examples from our winning university last year, which was CSU. So at CSU, there were 184 students who participated in the challenge. And that resulted in almost 5,000 volunteer hours, which is huge. That's a huge amount of people for 1 week to be getting out, volunteering in their community, participating in this citizen science study, and removing all of that litter from the campus and the community. They were able to remove almost 1,000 gallons of trash from the university and the surrounding community, which was also, a really big deal, able to get a lot of people out there. And here's some information about the kinds of things that they picked up. So around 33% were other trash items, and this mainly included snow brush bristles. There was kind of an incident right before where some of the snow removal tools had some issues and the bristles broke off of them. And it was really interesting because through this project, we were able to kind of bring in the facilities and talk about this problem and kind of brainstorm how to make sure this wouldn't happen again because it was such a big litter item. The next highest was at almost 29% food wrappers, which is not common for all other areas. This was kind of a little bit unique to college campuses. So again, because we understood this, we could kind of target our education around food wrappers, areas where food is given out, and think about how we can minimize it at the source. Next highest was paper waste, then plastic bottles, plastic bags, and then the lowest was metal and tin waste. And this, again, was just for CSU. We'll talk a little bit about all of the universities in a minute. We were able to gather trash from 79 unique locations. You can see this map here. And as we continue to do this year after year, these colleges and universities will be able to kind of find those hot spots for where litter is and target their education to those locations. This was kind of more based on just where cleanups were happening and where folks were organizing. But as we do it longer, we'll be able to understand where those places that litter is occurring are. And then just a couple of kind of nice quotes from folks who participated. People said it was really rewarding to see how much waste we picked up, knowing it could have been consumed by wildlife, polluting water, that would soon be flowing into the ditch. And this was another big component of this challenge, and will be this year, is providing that education for why this litter matters in the first place and why it's so important we're removing it. And then another person said that the most effective way to teach community about the importance of waste disposal is to have them actively engage in a cleanup of their own community. To see a problem and take an active role in correcting it is enlightening and gives a sense of accomplishment and pride in keeping our open spaces clean. And this is something as an organization we find again and again, that having people take on that active role and really kind of think critically about what this trash is and where maybe it came from is in itself a really powerful educational touch point and a really awesome benefit of this project. So again, here's the QR code. Again, it is happening during Earth Month, so during April. Any college and university is welcome to sign up. If you are a student or you work at a college and university, you can fill in this form and you'll get all of the updates on this project. And we also try to provide a lot of support. So social media posts, kind of a toolkit for how best to organize, a bunch of resources to help you set up your project and make it as successful as possible. And then there are prizes for the winning college and university as well. Last year, we had some donations from some of our corporate partners, as well as some Leave No Trace prizes. So there are cool prizes to win. And if you don't work at a college or university or not a student, you can still participate in just the broader Leave No Trash kind of movement. So Leave No Trash is a project that is always open, always there. We encourage folks anytime you're on a neighborhood walk or on a hike to pick up trash and record it so that we can really understand where litter is and where it's coming from. And in addition to this, we also during April have a kind of broader Leave No Trash challenge where we encourage everyone to see how much trash we can pick up throughout that month. And we, again, have some prizes and some additional kind of incentives to get involved during that month.
And just to briefly interrupt there for this slide, For all you who are either wanting to get more familiar with SciStarter or are already on SciStarter, you can look up Leave No Trash as a project there. And on that page, under the How to Join, you can see the next direction with the link for the university sign up, the volunteer sign up, and then more instructions on how to get to the website to see all the other links too. So if you need direction and need one link to go by, this is a good one to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Emma. And just to kind of highlight the broader Leave No Trash project, last year we were, during the month of April, with that broader campaign, we removed almost 64,000 pounds of litter through everyone participating in this. So again, like I mentioned, all of us just taking these little steps really does add up to a big impact in our communities. And we really encourage you, whether you're interested in being part of the University Challenge or whether you would like to just be part of this broader campaign, to sign up and get out there, pick up trash, record it so that we can really understand how to minimize these things and keep them out of our natural world. Another thing that I want to mention is if you're just interested in learning more about Leave No Trace in general, we do have a free 45-minute online course. It's available to everyone. It is self-paced, and it really dives into all of those 7 principles, the research and science behind it, so that you can understand not just trash, but these other ways to minimize your impacts as well, because trash is just one component of what we teach and talk about. All right, now to test everyone's knowledge, we're going to go through one of our Leave No Trace science quizzes. So we do these almost every Friday if you're signed up for our newsletter. They're related to different things we teach, different research studies that are happening. And this one comes from our citizen science program and specifically the Leave No Trash University Challenge. So you should see a poll pop up. How often were trash cans located near where participants found trash? So this is one of the things we track so that we can understand, are we finding litter literally right next to a trash can, or is it in an area where no trash cans exist? Because that can help us understand how to minimize this in the future. So 15% of the time, trash was found where there were trash cans, 25% of the time, 45% or 65%. And this is for the University Challenge, so on college campuses. How often do you think trash was found near trash cans?
It's funny to see how either hopeful folks are or super
Yeah. Yeah.
low
How much do you
hopes.
believe in humans,
Oh, that's pretty funny. Got 60% participating. We'll wait a couple of seconds. Megan in the chat, excuse me. Megan in the chat is asking, curious if university folks who are participating would be able to connect. Would be cool to turn this into a publication and or conference presentation. Have you done conferences with all this data?
We have not yet. So last year was the very first year of the University Challenge, and we have been doing Leave No Trash for a few years, but we're hoping to continue to grow it and definitely to have the folks participating connect and kind of share their findings and maybe someday, yeah, turn it into a publication or something of that nature. So definitely interested, and we hope it continues to grow in that direction.
Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and, oh, there we go. Thank you, Roland. We're very split.
Wow, yeah. So folks were 33% of us were right. So it is 45% of the time trash was found where trash cans were present. And this could mean a few things. It could mean the trash cans are poorly designed, and so trash can blow out of them, or wildlife a lot will pull trash out of the trash cans and then it winds up right around it. And that can tell us that we need to redesign our trash cans. It could also mean that the trash cans maybe aren't super obvious and people don't notice them. Or it could be just that pesky human nature of littering and not going to seek out the trash can. But it does help us understand, is it the problem we need more trash cans, or is the problem that we're not noticing them or not using them? All right, our next question. What was the most common litter item found on all of the participating campuses. So I told you CSUs, but this is for all of the campuses. What was the most common litter item? So plastic water bottles, paper waste, metal waste, or food wrappers.
What would be considered metal waste while we're
So
talking about?
metal waste would be like aluminum, so soda cans
Oh,
or
sure,
beer
sure.
cans or tin. Um, but mostly aluminum is the most common type of metal waste.
Gotcha. Give you guys a good, we're at 60% participation. Couple more of you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Oh, also split. Plastic water bottles and food
Okay.
wrappers are the two answers.
Yeah, so plastic water bottle is the highest. And this, honestly, going into the university challenge was also my assumption. Plastic water bottles, there are a lot of different organizations that track litter worldwide, which we'll talk more about in a minute. And plastic water bottles are commonly in the top amount of litter found. But for the university's, food wrappers was actually the most common litter item. And if you remember from CSU, it was their second most common litter item. And to me, this really stood out because it's not, that's not common across parks and protected areas or beaches or other places where we track litter. It was kind of a unique piece of college campuses and I'm interested to see if this is consistent when we do it again in 2025. But kind of tells us that food areas, maybe it's vending machines or restaurants or kind of food courts, those types of areas are maybe some places where we could have more education or try to lead people to make better choices about what they do with those food wrappers. All right. So zooming out a little bit, what do you think the most commonly littered item on Earth is? So food wrapper, paper waste, cigarette butts, or plastic water bottles. And again, like I mentioned, there are quite a few different orgs that try to track litter items from cleanups that happen worldwide. So these are not from our numbers, they're from different organizations that track worldwide. But what do you think is the most commonly littered item on Earth? And this item is consistently, I think for at least the last 5 or 6 years, has consistently been the top every year that they try to gather this data. It's holding
And it
strong.
looks like also in the chat again, Megan, this is an exam question in my ES 100 class, environmental science, I'm assuming. That's awesome. Good question to have.
Mhm.
All right, we're at 80%. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. And we're split again between cigarette butts and plastic water bottles. What is the correct answer, though?
Yes, so the correct answer is cigarette butts. They are consistently found to be the most littered item on Earth. And very interesting about cigarette butts is they actually
Uh-oh. Wasn't sure if that was me or someone else.
No, I think we lost Aaron for a sec.
Well, a related story in the meantime. I was a part of a litter cleanup that actually ignored cigarette
those
butts because there were
chemicals.
too many of them. And
Oh,
so just skip over them. Sorry, Aaron, you dropped off for a second, so
oh, it's
I
okay. I'm back.
story. Which actually I was curious, which you can continue your statement, but I was just sharing that I was in a litter cleanup that purposefully ignored the cigarette butts because there were just too many. And that was
Mhm.
I like stopped and kept cleaning them up because I was so angry about it. But
Mhm.
yeah, so what's the deal
Yeah.
with cigarette butts?
Yeah, so cigarette butts, most commonly littered item on Earth, and they can contaminate a square meter of soil. So that square meter of soil, any seeds or plants within there will be less likely to germinate. And if they do germinate, they grow shorter than they would otherwise because of all those chemicals that are leaching into the soil whenever there's, rainwater. So most commonly littered item on Earth and has a pretty big effect on our ecosystems. So it's really important to understand these types of trends so that we can target our education. And like I said, cleanups are really wonderful and they're a great way to address the kind of symptoms, but they're not the solution. We want to really try to figure out how we can solve these things or minimize them at least at the source. So understanding what is littered, where it comes from is part of that. Another part of that is knowing why it matters that these items are picked up in the first place. So this question has to do with how long it takes items to decompose. So specifically, an orange peel. Do you think it takes 1 week, 2 to 5 months, 1 year, or 2 years for an orange peel to decompose? And this isn't an average climate. This will change depending on the climate, but try to think about an average climate.
Seeing the questions come in. I definitely would have been on the side of I don't know, maybe 2 to 5 months would have been my immediate guess to add in. We're at 80%. I'll give you like 3 more seconds in case anyone wants to add in. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Bummer. There we go. All right, we're split between 2 to 5 months and 1 year, but the answer is
The answer is up to 2 years. And we might be thinking like, well, I compost these and they don't take that long in my compost, but our compost is specifically created to break things down. So there's a lot more happening there than if it's just thrown out of our car window or left in the park. That environment is not going to be able to break it down very quickly. And especially peels will kind of almost like mummify and just get really dry and stiff and then stick around for a long time. And the biggest issue with these, with any kind of like natural trash, like food waste type of trash, is that it will attract wildlife. And because it's not their natural food source, it can be really harmful and disruptive for them. So think about an orange peel that we throw out of a car window. Now it's bringing wildlife to that roadway where they're going to try to get that food. They could get hit by a car. It's also not their natural food source, so not as healthy for them. So even these natural trash items, we still want to pick up and want to keep out of our environment.
on that topic. I am curious, do you know of any animals that are okay with eating orange peels? Like it's okay for their stomachs?
Probably animals where oranges grow naturally. I'm sure there are a few. I'm not aware of any specific species, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some that, that is part of their natural diet. And so they're able to digest them and not cause issues. But there are some animals where like the higher amount of vitamin C can be really disruptive to them. Or different things are toxic to different animals. And if it's not part of their natural environment and it's just put there by humans, it can not be something that they know is harmful to them. So they'll still eat it anyway. But that's a great question. Our last poll question here, which of these items do you think takes the longest to decompose? So an aluminum can, a plastic water bottle, a disposable diaper, or paper waste. Which of these do you think takes the longest to decompose?
No one's going for the disposable diaper yet.
I mean, it has disposable in the name, right?
Oh, that's true. Kind of a giveaway. Give you a couple more seconds for the rest of you to participate. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, I need the poll. Split between aluminum can and plastic water bottle.
All right, so plastic water bottle is the longest, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about each of them. So paper waste, nobody guessed paper waste. It does depend on the type of paper and how it's constructed, but it can take anywhere from maybe a month to a few months to maybe a year, depending on the type of paper and the environment. It can still have bleach and different chemicals in it, so still not great to leave out, but not the longest. The next one, if we're going on a timeline, would actually be an aluminum can. It's around 80 to 100 years. And aluminum is actually endlessly recyclable. So we can kind of continuously recycle it. Whereas something like a plastic water bottle can be recycled once, maybe twice, and it's always downcycled. Aluminum we can continuously recycle. So a really great option to make sure we get in a recycling. The next one would be disposable diaper. They can take, according to some studies, around 450 years to totally decompose because there is a lot of synthetic materials, a lot of foams, a lot of like glues and things in those. And they're really common litter items because people don't want to, carry them around. They don't have a plan for how to get them to a trash can. So always think through what you're bringing to an area and how you're going to bring it out with you so you don't accidentally litter because you didn't have a plan for something. And then the longest, plastic water bottles. There are varying studies, but plastic is very likely not going away. It is not biodegrading, it photodegrades. So it just breaks down into smaller and smaller and smaller little microplastic pieces, and those are likely staying in our environment forever. And they wash into different waterways, rivers, lakes, the ocean eventually. They get into us and cause lots of issues that we're still only tapping into and finding out and understanding. So making sure these things are taken out of our environment, that we're disposing of our waste properly, and thinking about how we can minimize our waste in the first place is all really important in just having a positive impact on our planet and minimizing our impacts. So those are our poll questions. Thank you so much for participating. I wanted to share my email and Elise's email. Mine, they're both very easy, Erin@lnt.org, Elise@lnt.org. If you're interested in reaching out to us about anything Leave No Trace or citizen science related. And I am going to see if there's any specific questions for me and also pass it over to Sarah. Do you want to share your slides, Sarah, or do you want me to keep mine up?
I can share them real quick. Yeah. Well, it'll get them set up while you guys are asking questions.
I had a question in the meantime. I'm not seeing if there's a. Yeah, I think we're okay on the chat for the time being, and I don't see anything in the Q&A right now. So, in terms of picking up trash is great. I'm curious if you all are involved in any of the post pickup trash part of litter, as in like the bigger long-term storage and recycling process. Does Leave No Trace have any part in advocating for things like that?
Yeah, I would say more in like the waste stream kind of diversion. So we work with Subaru is one of our biggest corporate partners. And their plant where they make Subarus is actually zero waste. They divert almost everything. It's like 99% of things from the landfill by adjusting all of their processes to reuse things and use things that are recyclable or compostable. And from what we learned from that, we've kind of worked with different national parks to try to help them become zero landfill. So Denali is a great example. We've worked with them to divert, I think, like 45% of their waste from landfill. So more in that space of trying to help folks figure out how to kind of adjust those streams and work with the restaurants in the park to use all of their packaging for their food that's either compostable or recyclable, those kinds of things.
Very nice. Cool. Thanks. I think we're okay to keep moving. And then if we have more questions at the end, feel free to drop them in the chat. Anyone who's in Facebook as well, you can drop them in the comments and we'll make sure to check. All right.
Perfect.
Sarah.
Thank you. So my name is Sarah Newman, and as Emma mentioned, I'm the Director of Operations at SciStarter. I've been in the citizen science space for a really long time, and got my start doing like wildlife management and invasive species, and discovered a lot of the questions I was trying to answer and research. And of course, my phone is ringing now. 1 second.
Just as another thought about citsci.org, SciStarter has a lot of citsci.org being moved into SciStarter to also find them in there, but we love our partners at citsci. We've done a couple of projects recently that were through citsci.org, if anyone remembers the bat count episode in October. Love that project. Okay, moving on, Sarah.
Very cool. No, that's great. Sorry about that. We still have a landline at our house and I forget about it all the time. Anyway, I got my start doing research and worked in project management and dealing with a lot of problems that relied on the public to really answer hard questions. And so my passion for citizen science was organic, and I started out working with projects on the ground, and then eventually came to SciStarter. And so we've been working with Leave No Trace for a number of years on a variety of initiatives, especially related to trash. And I love the university challenge because it was a crazy idea we had to see if we could bring some of the Leave No Trace concepts to the university campus. And I'll show you some of the basics of the SciStarter platform and how we fit into this whole project, and then hopefully tell a few short stories along the way that we learned as we went. So we started this last year. SciStarter is a platform overall that has been around since 2017, I believe. No, 2007, I'm sorry, 2007. And we got our start in, again, in invasive species, actually, before my time with the project, but helping groups track things online. Before that was a very common thing to be able to do. And we eventually expanded to supporting all kinds of projects in all kinds of topic areas because there was such a great need for these kinds of tools. So, so that's our role with the Leave No Trace project here. Our mission is really to support citizen science, community-based research, and engage scholarship to help meet community-driven needs globally. And so we are available across the world, and we do have projects that you do work all across the globe, and some even despite our project platform being primarily in English, we have a number of projects that have created theirs in their own language, which is really cool. So we primarily support projects through our website and our technology that allows for data collection and sharing, but also through mobile apps, which I'll show and briefly, and then through consulting on projects like with Aaron and the team at Leave No Trace. So just a real quick shot of our website. Our mobile apps are available on iOS and Android. And then also, we have a specific mobile app created for Leave No Trace because they have so many amazing projects that we needed to kind of rein it in and allow people to participate in a way that they could, through the Leave No Trace organization, they could just see what was going on there. So 2 QR codes here, one for iOS and one for Android. I know this will be recorded as well, so you can come back to these later if you want. And from our homepage, if you go to our projects tab up in the upper left, you can see all the different projects that are participating. We have over 1,000 right now doing different kinds of work. Some of these projects have been retired and many are still actively gathering information. And then at the top of the page, you'll see our hubs. And hubs are organizations that have more than one active citizen science project and have needed more resources or need to help gather their projects in one place so that their volunteers and things can see them. And so Leave No Trace is one of those, and we have a hub there. You can click on that, and then you'll be able to scroll through. This isn't even all of the projects on this screenshot because I couldn't even fit them all. There's so many. But you'll see those Access Fund ones that Aaron talked about earlier with the climbing. We did a project a long time ago now with REI on their opt-out side after Thanksgiving. And then the Leave No Trash projects are in here as well. And you will see one for CSU and one for Notre Dame. Last year we had separate pages for each university. We were kind of testing out the waters. This time we will have probably one page for all the universities to participate in to make it a little bit easier. And this is an example of what that page looked like. So we have the goals and tasks and more information about how to get started, how to get organized at your university. And then there are pictures of, at the bottom of some of the recent observations, the young lady there holding that pack of snowbrush bristles was one of our student organizers, and she was hilarious. But that is what a snowbrush bristle looks like. If it breaks off, it is plastic, and it's about the length of a straw maybe. And these were literally scattered throughout campus and throughout the city because we weren't the only ones who we had a cold snap, and so these broke off all the machines everywhere. So we're still picking them up, actually. I saw one just the other day, which is crazy. And so this is kind of what the challenge page will look like for you. And then if you're not familiar with the SciStarter platform, our primary mission is to help with seeing data, using data, activating based on your data. So there is a data tab, of course, where you can see individual observations. And if you clicked through on these, you can look at them more closely. And I didn't take a screenshot of that, but you can explore any of this without logging in to the site. And then we have resources. And so this was really fun because as we went through this project, we were developing things in real time. So we were uploading PDFs and images and posters and sharing them throughout all of the organizations that got involved last year on our campus. And some students even created some videos and things like that, which was fun. And I'll show just a few things later. And then we have a forum. This is a tool just like any other chat that you can communicate with your project members. We have the ability for project managers to send emails via the forum, and then other members can participate within the forum, just like a typical chat. And then one of my favorite pieces is the results in real time. So the goal here is to be able to kind of see, how things are working based on the questions that you've asked. And so here's just one pie chart from last year where you can see that breakdown, like Erin showed earlier, of what people were finding throughout campus. And so I'll leave it there for the tools because I know you're getting a lot of information about where to sign up and what to do things, and we can explore more of that with you after you sign up and help you through any kind of questions you might have. I don't want to inundate you with too much on the technical sides of things. Most of these tools I think are pretty straightforward and pretty easy, but we're here to help with all the steps along the way. The other thing, though, since a lot of you are here from libraries and universities and organizations that work with students, is I just wanted to talk briefly about kind of some of the tips. So we received a tiny little grant right before the event to help support the launch. And part of it was a sustainability grant from our university. And they had some requirements, which were things like work with the Student Government Association, work with facilities and grounds. And some of that made it a little logistically interesting for us at the very last minute, but also turned out to be really fantastic. And I wish I had thought about it even sooner. So I couldn't emphasize more to work with those kinds of departments like facilities and grounds. They donated a ton of material for us, like bags and trash grabbers. They also had really good information about where the messy places were and helped us direct students to specific locations to do their cleanups. And then the Student Government Association was really already all in on their Earth Month planning, but they had already organized a spring clean event, and so they adjusted the date and had all of their sororities and fraternities part of this big cleanup, and that's why you saw some of those other dots scattered a little further from campus. So they went out and did a ton of cleaning up there. What was really cool about working with those groups was that they weren't our typical target audience. And so we had recruited a student course in our Warner College of Natural Resources, and they had done a ton of recruiting of kind of more typical environmental organizations on campus. But the Greeks Go Green was a really great opportunity to reach students that were outside of the norm. And the conversations we got to have with them about what they learned, a lot of them were from other states. And so they had interesting stories about how trashy it is where they live or what it looked like in our community compared to home life and things like that. So that was really fun. And then I learned a lot. I don't get to work directly with students as much despite being on a campus. And so one of the fun things for me was working with faculty who just already had plans. And I'm sure some of you have already been thinking of things. But a lot of the data Erin showed came right out of a story map that students put together for a class project. We actually used a whole student group that was doing a class project that became their class project. So they helped with recruiting, planning, organizing, data analysis. It was a lot of skill building for them and for us. And so that was really lovely. So I know we're, as Emma said, we're getting close to April already, but we can, it's never too early to start planning. And then Erin already said this, but I wanted to make sure to emphasize it as well. For the students, it was really helpful to help them understand that the cleanup itself was really important, but it was the recording of the data that was essential. And that is because, as Erin said, it helps us decide where and how to take action next. And that was eye-opening for a lot of them. And I just wanted to emphasize that here as well. So I will leave it there. Hopefully I made my time. And we can skip my questions, Emma, and go on to your stuff as well. Stop sharing.
We are still within the hour, so, and I have very little to share you all, so let me just switch over here. If you do have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to info@scistar.org, and we'll also send a follow-up email with the emails, or Erin and Elise's emails, for you to reach out about the Leave No Trash, or Leave No Trace and Leave No Trash. But just so you're aware of what's coming next, so the last SciStarter Live of the year, live one, not a recording anyway, is on December 17th. We're going to be playing a game, so join us so we can play a game festively for the end of the year. But the previous 2 weeks, we have a ton of videos from previous lives about the winter season, including how to track Santa. So check out our YouTube page. It's very fun. I just rewatched the one about Santa and really enjoyed it. So it's a good one to go to. And you can visit our blog to see all those things and register for the event, which we'll put in the chat. And as I mentioned, I'll skip over that for a second. We don't have time. As I mentioned before, you can reach out. Thank you so much, Sarah, Erin, and Elise for joining us for this, so you could explain all that is happening. I'm really excited to see how many universities sign up for this, for the 2025 version. It should be really great to see. Hopefully, I'm pushing for ASU to join, so I'll make sure they get it together and make it happen. And if you are willing to and able to, definitely join us in December for the 17th event, and also our post survey. It takes like less than 2 minutes to fill out if you just want to share some thoughts or something you want to see happen in 2025. We are open ears. We're planning 2025 right now. So, and that's about it. The last thing I'll mention, since it's at the hour, so for anyone who needs to leave, no worries. We do have a virtual series coming up for Do NASA Science Live that's aimed towards the community of service members, veterans, and their families. So if any of you are connected to veterans, or you're a veteran yourself or a service member, feel free to reach out and get connected with us, as well as register for this event that is going to be really fun in January on the 29th. So I'll go ahead and pause it there. Very different topic there. So I'll stop my screen share. Thank you both so much for being here. I'm excited. I've learned so much, so I'm excited to be able to advocate it more to the universities I talk to on a regular basis. So thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Great. And thank you everyone who joined us, and we will see you at the next one.